Recovery and Resilience Officer program helps flood-affected primary producers recover from the impacts of the 2021 to 2022 flooding and cyclone events in southern, central, southeast and western Queensland. Through the program, QFF and BMRG's Recovery and Resilience Officers supported farmers in developing flood management plans to build resilience and identify strategies to mitigate farm business risk. The program was delivered through strong collaboration between the Australian and Queensland governments, Queensland Farmers Federation and Burnett Mary Regional Group.
So the Industry Recovery and Resilience Officer program provides additional support for primary producers to recover from those significant flood events. Well, primary producers in Queensland are operating in the most variable climate in the world. They do really well to produce high quality food and fibre in the context of high climate variability. This program helps to support primary producers to improve their capacity to respond to those extreme events that are increasing in nature, as well as mitigate the impacts of future events. The success of the program is really demonstrated through recently we nominated for a Resilience Australia Award as part of the Queensland Government. So a joint submission based on the Farm Business Resilience Program was successful. So it was announced that we were finalists in that. We're really excited to find that we won the Queensland Award for the Queensland Government section, and we're looking forward to attending the national awards. They've done a magnificent job engaging with stakeholders, supporting them. Really, the results of the program as a result of their efforts. Really strong collaborative approach. A team of champions will be beaten by a champion team. In this case, we've got both, and you can't really get much better than that.
What do you think farmers can do to continue to build on their farm preparedness and resilience as a legacy of the IRRO program?
Producers need to realise that they can build resilience on the impact of previous disasters that they've experienced, and know that their farm is at risk and they are going to need the tools in their toolkit and the extension services around them from organisations like Burnett Mary Regional Group and Queensland Farmers Federation and the Department of Ag to help them build that resilience for future events.
Can you give me some highlights that you've experienced through the delivery of this program?
Jules, I think one of the highlights for me was the workshops and the field days that we were able to present around the Burnett Mary region. We had a lot of producers come along that hadn't heard of resources and education tools like grazing land management and landscape hydration. And the engagement that we saw at those workshops for those primary producers out in the field and sitting in the classroom listening to the theory side of it from our expert keynote speakers, it was a game changer.
Virginia, can you share your insights into how you felt about working collaboratively between QFF, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries and BMRG?
Bringing our knowledge and our experience together, we've all worked together so closely, week in, week out, throwing ideas at each other, bringing that feedback from our producers into the room and talking about it and how we can support them better. You know, organisations coming together collaboratively and working together, it's just a game changer.
We bought this in January of 20 and the floods were March of 22, right?
The big flood.
Big flood. We had multiple floods before, they were smaller, nothing like this. Jim's been here a long time and I don't think he'd seen this one either.
Well, I've been in the Gympie in the region here for over 30 years and never have seen a flood as big as what it was then.
Here, 80% of it went underwater. We were heavy cattle back then. As a result of the floods now, we're a real mix of cattle, silage and hay.
Right up behind me here, back towards those cattle.
So would those cattle effectively have been underwater?
They would have been underwater.
Same with the cattle right up near the house because it went up there. We'd been through a few and Jim's got a good setup now on the river where the fences swing away.
We first developed the Farm Business Resilience Plan. That sort of really forced us to think outside the square a little bit about how to run the farm as a business, a bit of diversification, mitigation of risk, all of that kind of thing. Sometimes we all get really bogged down in the day-to-day, but I think you've got to take a moment to catch up with people and use all the resources that are available to you and get as much advice and assistance as you can to figure out the best way of doing things, and whatever help you can get your hands on, grab it. Just understanding how to put it all on paper to then be able to access those rebates and grants has been really, really helpful, and we really appreciate all the assistance we've had.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Through the Industry Recovery and Resilience Officer Program, what were some of the most rewarding experiences that you had?
Where do I even begin, really? There's been so many great experiences. I think the biggest privilege has just been working alongside primary producers and seeing what they're actually doing on their properties. I really enjoyed running the workshops. We did quite a few from St George, Dalby, Boonah. We went up to Theodore and Billawheeler, so that's just a few that we hosted, and I think it was a really good opportunity to bring in a broader resilience in agriculture message. So of course our project focuses on flood mitigation, but it was also a chance to have, you know, a range of speakers, agronomy, finance, we had mental health speakers. I think it was really beneficial to have such a wide range of industries involved in the program. You know, we connected with primary producers across dairy, horticulture, mixed cropping and grazing. So there was a wide range of businesses, and with that comes a wide range of flood mitigation strategies.
What was the greatest lesson that you took away from this program working with producers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most of the time primary producers are on the ball. They know what they're doing, they know their business, they know their property better than anyone, but they may not have those plans in place. So I found that a really great advantage with us coming in is we could actually help them document things, get their plans down on paper, and that can be a living, breathing document. You know, it might change season to season, and it's just such a great resource for them to have on hand.
Yeah, driving around the next morning after a big flood-like event like that, it can be pretty emotionally taxing, looking at the damage that's occurred. Probably the first thing we noticed was that, you know, fences were washed away. We had livestock mixed up in different paddocks that had to be all sorted out. Just getting around roads, water had scoured out roads. We had huge gullies, really impacted getting machinery around to different paddocks. As farmers, we typically love the sound of rain on the roof at night, but yeah, that euphoria can quickly turn to dread as the intensity increases and the duration gets longer and longer. We started with taking GPS data out of our tractor and doing elevation surveys. Even though it was very accurate, what we were finding was that it was only capturing the elevation of the paddock itself, whereas a lot of the damage was occurring further up the catchment. So we realised the need that we needed a whole of farm elevation survey. So we got the place LiDAR mapped down to 1 square metre, and then we used the funding from the IRRO program to implement a flood management plan. Finding that certainly over the years the rainfall appears to be getting more and more intense. So it's been a process of coming up with a plan for the whole property as opposed to just individual paddocks.
Luckily, you were able to come out and farm and see for yourself kind of that erosion and some of the problems we were having on the farm holistically.
Well, I'm probably able to sleep a little easier at night, at least in the paddocks that we have implemented some of the control measures.
Look, I would really encourage all producers to really engage and embrace all industry programs such as this. It's just a really great opportunity for farmers to kind of connect, discuss, and network with other farmers and people within the ag industry.
Jules, after delivering the Industry Recovery and Resilience Officer Program, what feedback do you have? What can you provide for future programs in your experience in dealing with primary producers that have been impacted by these severe events?
I would say we're probably a human connection for farmers. Instead of having to look up resources online
or find resources through magazines, we're actually a face-to-face contact for farmers and able to point them in the right direction of what they need or what they want to improve their business. So I think as an industry recovery and resilience officer, we were able to offer that service as well. And on top of it, help them build their plans to recover and provide more resilient strategies to mitigate floods.
I guess final question that I've got to ask, what's it been like collaborating with other organisations in delivering this program?
Virginia, it's been awesome. We have collaborated with BMRG and the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries. It's been such a fantastic journey. There really has not been one downfall about it. Everyone's been able to provide such valuable insight into everything. The amount of connections, and I'd nearly say friendships, I've made through my role at QFF has definitely provided me with a black book of connections to help farmers with. Should they need anything or have a question, I'd definitely be able to point them in the right direction. It's also helped me grow as a person to understand what the needs are of farmers, what they are looking for, and learn how to just be direct with the farmers and not beat around the bush.
So we farm here at Glenelg Grove in the Lockyer Valley with my wife Beck, our 4 children, and in partnership with my dad Alan. So late 2021, early 2022, they were wet years for us. In fact, record years as far as rainfall. We'd had a previous wet 12 months and our ground was saturated as it was. Obviously, as a dairy farm, our highest priority is our cows. We're really fortunate that we have some ridge.
So when it's all flooded down here, where do you move all your stock to?
So where we're standing, Jules, we're probably water's over our head, well and truly. So like I said, we've got to be really conscious when it is going to flood and make sure those animals are up on high ridge. So they've got probably about a 600 metre walk back up to the ridge where there's some feed pad, and we store all our feed anyway. And then we have some temporary water troughs. They're probably next in line to come up out of flood water.
So we're assuming these have been put in since the floods. Can you tell us a bit more about them?
They certainly have. So as a dairy farm, the first thing that we want to do is get our cows back in the farm. And to have good permanent fencing, that's obviously imperative. So I tacked these together, put the stay onto the posts, and we've concreted them in the ground. So Jules, silage is a great strategy for us. And silage obviously isn't a new thing, but it's somewhere where we can store a lot of feed without having to have infrastructure like sheds. So we estimate there's probably 4 or 5 years worth of silage here for us as a feed point of view. And it's a wonderful resource. It's often referred to as money in the bank, and that is exactly what it is for us. And prior to 2022, we didn't actually have a plan. Probably risk management, the strategies that we used for flooding was probably all in my head. When we actually put that plan down into the paper, and now it's something we can refer back to as a family, and we do, and sit down and go back through it in detail and make sure that it's right for our farm.
So Rachel, what do you think it means to be an IRRO, and has your view on that changed since you started the role?
Yes, so my view of this role has changed vastly since I started. And the thing that I think it means to be an industry recovery and resilience officer is to be a really great boots on the ground support system for a primary producer who went through a really traumatic event. Someone that they can bounce ideas off or talk honestly and openly with about the experience that they had.
So because we're dealing with pretty serious disasters, what were some of the emotions that you found actually came up through the program and dealing with primary producers?
A lot of empathy towards what they went through. I think that it was a very difficult and emotional and traumatic for some of them event, and I think that I could really feel the emotions that they felt with them retelling the story to me at their kitchen table. So I felt great empathy towards them, and it was quite an emotional experience to relive that with them.
What were some of the positive highlights of the program for you?
Being able to work with the producers, as well as seeing the positive outcomes since the event that they've already had. For example, already having increases in birthing rates and soil health improvements post-event. So being able to use that as a positive draw from what has already occurred I feel was a really greatly positive outcome for this program.
What have you learnt about the meaning of resilience through the delivery of the program?
The primary producers who we worked with, the resilience that they draw on after these events and during the events, especially when, you know, husband and wife duos are split between different properties and are not able to have contact with each other, being able to keep moving forward and executing the objectives that they mutually agreed on, and being able to get back up when you've tripped and fallen and had multiple events occur simultaneously. I think that that is the true meaning of resilience.
How has your background in soil been really advantageous for you in delivering the program to primary producers?
I think that for me personally, having a background in soil was really beneficial to our grazing enterprises that we worked with. Being able to help them find the most beneficial and advantageous group to work with, agronomist or otherwise. I think that that was really beneficial to grazing primary production enterprises who had such a severe impact from this event on their soil health. And I think that that was another really great outcome from this program.
Here we do a fair bit of lucerne. That's probably our main line at the moment. We have branched into doing some grain and of course, as you can see in the background, we've got cattle. Normally when there's a fair bit of rain up towards that Tansy, Kilkhaven area, 24 to 48 hours for the water to come down is a general rule of thumb. This was only a few hours.
And this was in the middle of the night? This wasn't during the day?
No, it didn't start raining until dark pretty well, like 5:30, 6 o'clock started to rain, and then it just got heavier and heavier and heavier. And so yeah, it's literally like 800-900 metres just down the road there. There was a father and daughter, they got caught in a car, they pulled up because the water was over the highway. Within minutes, he was on the roof of the car. He was a quick thinker, grabbed some rope out of the back seat of the car that he had there, fortunately, and he had time to tie his daughter to himself with the rope, and yeah, they were swept off in the darkness. Like, this is 10, 11 o'clock at night type thing. Like when that happened Friday night, and then like we're underwater like all day Saturday and Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, our father and daughter just comes walking in from, we don't know where because everything was underwater, sitting in a tree for 2 nights. They stayed here and had a bit of a sleep, some food and water type thing, and then they finished up actually getting airlifted out.
Run me through the flood level of the shed, where it got to.
Flood being in January, we're pretty well in the middle of the hay season, so that shed was full of round bales. There was approximately 400 round bales in there. This is the highest point on this farm, on this flat, and it was 1.2 metres deep. That one round bale on the bottom was where the water level came to. Yeah, so prior to the 22 flood, this was quite nice. You could basically, ride a motorbike through here, walk through pretty good with a horse. Now, like that sand is that soft. I have been bogged in there in a horse before. Yeah, you can see the whole way around how much of the bank's been affected from the water flow through. Clockweed, it grows 1 metre, 2 metres tall when it pushes its head out. That just came up everywhere after the 22 flood. We've identified a number of things, like a high tide paddock to be able to put cattle in on the flats there at home. Back at Brown's Corner, generators to have constant power to be able to run our own Wi-Fi, to be able to still have some sort of communication. And the other things we looked at was sufficient amount of water and hay.
Dan, you took advantage of the technical advice rebate.
With that rebate, we've got an agronomist in, and we've done a fresh lot of soil testing on nutrition and on the biology levels in the soils.
The cost of the floods is still continuing, and there's plenty of examples around here. The topsoil had been wiped off. We had weed problems come through at the same time. They've disturbed all our system. Our rotation was fairly basic at the start. We're introducing the biodiversity through cereal crops, multi-species crops, and then rotating the paddocks around. And I think we are starting to see some exciting results, really. But it is only early yet.
Being part of the industry recovery and resilience officer program, have you found the flood management plan to be of benefit and how do you see that sitting in with your farm operations going forward?
Definitely been beneficial. Yeah, like I said, we've identified a number of things we need to act on when we know there's floods coming. Any of those type of, well, like the one we just participated in, the technical rebate, it brings people together and gets that networking happening. So yeah, anything like that is definitely beneficial.